today we will talk about how we can build microservices as an approach as architect using .NET 9. But in our case, we will try to integrate AI, which means that we will use Azure OpenAI services. We will see how we can improve our application using AI. So let's start here. Who I am? Start by me. I am Hamid Arbai. I am Docker Captain, Microsoft Certified Trainer, and I am a Cloud Solution Architect and start learning also as you using AI services in Azure. So if you have any question after this session, let's say, you can reach me by Twitter, LinkedIn, by email. I have a blog that I'm really active, so you can ask me any question. I'm open all the days to answer you. So let's start here. We will present why we would like to use microservices, .NET 9, and the different services of AI. Next, why .NET 5, why we would like to use .NET 9 for microservices. We need to answer here. How we can architect microservices. We start by presenting the difference between monolithics, microservices, and why we need sometimes to use microservices in distributed application. And we will integrate in the fourth part our AI code. We will see an example. I will share with you in the end of the session the GitHub link of the source code. We try to see the different elements, explain how we can integrate it according to your needs, to your application. We will use e-commerce application in our case. Next, we will see another element important here, that is Docker, how we can use container. If we set microservices, we need to think about containers as an approach, let's say, as a place that allow us to manipulate our microservices, and in the end, some summary. Let's start now. So we start in the beginning by designing .NET microservices. Why? Because we need to have modularity, scalability, durability. So it's simple for a distributed application to use this approach. Next, we will see how we can integrate AI capabilities using Azure Open AI. So we need to create in the beginning the service of inside Azure Open AI service, and this service you can use the Studio, Azure Studio. Else, we can use source code using .NET 9 to be able to consume, let's say, this service. Next, in the end, we will see how we can deploy our AI microservices in cloud-ready containers. So its container is used to help us as for any cloud-oriented, let's say, cloud-oriented architectures. So why we need to use .NET 9 for microservices? So .NET 9 is ideal for microservices because its performance enhancements, we have containerization support specifically for Docker, and ease of development with minimal APIs. So we have a lot of benefits that make it possible to build, deploy, and scale microservices efficiently. And additionally, we have the improved diagnostics, logging, and Azure integration. It simplifies the management of distributed system and AI-powered services. We need to know also that Docker was integrated before .NET 9, and we can see that we have a lot of efforts from Microsoft to improve, and the community to improve, specifically the use of Docker containers inside any .NET framework. So here, let's move to talk more about microservices, how we can use microservices. But before moving to talk about microservices, we know that we have a lot of architecture to use. The most known is the monolithic application approach. We can see here in the first case, we have a traditional application. Traditional application can include the different layers, presentation layer, service layer, database layer, or data layer, let's say. So we can have a different layer, so which means that's good practice, yes, but it's inside one block. In our case, it's one packages, only one package, and the scales will be done by cloning the app on multiple server on virtual machine. But for microservices, it's another approach. It's really different. Because a microservice application segregates functionality into separate, smaller services, which means that the scale out will be done by deploying each service independently with multiple instances across server or virtual machine. So this is the difference between the monolithic approach and the microservices approach. Let's move on more talk about the architectures. So microservices are the natural evolution of service-oriented architecture, but there are differences between microservices and service-oriented architecture. So let's talk about some points, some characteristics of microservices. Inside microservices architecture, services are really small, independent, and loosely coupled. Every service is a separate code base, which can be managed by a small deployment team, which means that every service or microservices, we can have a separate team, even it's the same application. And services can be deployed independently, and a team can update an existing service without rebuilding or redeploying the entire application. It's here like having an approach of DevOps, CI/CD that allow us to deploy easier our microservices. Every team can deploy a separate service. And services are responsible for persisting their own data or external state. We don't need to have the same database in this case, so we can have multiple database, relational one or NoSQL, so it depends, in the same application. This make us more flexible. We can select the suitable database or type of database for any service. And in our case, services can communicate with each other by using API, well-defined APIs. Internal implementation details of each service are hidden from other services. And services don't need to share the same technology stack, library, or framework, which means that I can use .NET or C#, I can use Python, for example, for specific microservices to create our training model, for example. So we have really diverse applications that include different libraries, different technology stacks, and framework. And beside of for the services themselves, some other components appear in a typical microservice architecture. We have some, let's say, some technologies that we can use it, like API gateway. API gateway, it's like entry point for clients. We can use containerization with API gateway, depends, because we will communicate using API. So we need API gateway that range this communication, let's say the entry point for different APIs. And we have service discovery that maintains a list of services and which nodes they are located on. So it enables service lookup to find the entry point endpoint for a service. So for me, microservices is come to natural. It's similar to beehives. I see that similar really, because within a hive, thousands of bees coexist and help each other for a single common goal: the survival of the colony. So microservices and offer here compared to beehives because both systems rely on small independent units that work together to achieve a larger goal. In our case here, the application for beehives is the colony. Now we talked about really .NET 9 to create microservices. And now we will see how we can integrate AI with Azure OpenAI, what we need to do that. So we are looking here to, you are looking at how .NET 9 microservices can be enhanced using Azure OpenAI for smarter, more responsive application. It can be e-commerce, healthcare application. In our case, we will focus more about e-commerce. It's an example, but this example can be used for any sector like healthcare, financial. So it depends from your application. So we focus in simple real words use case, personalized products. Microservices allow for independently scalable modules, while API enables smarter, personalized functionality. We will use Azure OpenAI to enhance our recommendation engine. For in our case, e-commerce, we were selling some product. I would like to have a recommendation engine here. So to enhance microservices with intelligent AI capability, we see here that we can enable microservices to deliver tailored recommendation. We can integrate chatbots. We can generate the specific content. We can have a blog with e-commerce that recommends some person about some specific article, for example. And we will use Azure Open EI language models. In this case, you can build your own models. We are in microservices architecture, so you can create your models, you can integrate it in Azure OpenAI and reuse it after the service. You can make the calls inside your application C# .NET 9. So we can have also asynchronous capabilities in .NET. This makes it ideal for real-time AI processing, such as predictable analytics, live recommendation. We have supports efficient processing of user data. We can generate instant AI-driven insight within each microservices. We see how we can add capabilities in our application. .NET 9 offers seamless SDK for Azure services. Really, it's simplifying API requests to AI models. It reduces the amount of boilerplate code and allowing a developer to focus on logic and service functionality. We see that we have a NuGet related to Azure OpenAI, but you have more DLS that you are able to use to consume more this NuGet, this framework. We will talk after about containerization. Containerization comes here really to add another layer to simplify and to make application more scalable. So containerization, AI-powered microservices, we use Docker to allow us to have scalable deployments across a cloud platform. We know that Docker is supported by the most of cloud providers, which means that we are able to deploy. So you can work your microservices internally, it run inside Docker, and it will be running in any other provider, cloud provider, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, for example, whatever. So it's really portable. No need to make some changes in configuration, no need to add some codes in this case. So what's running internally can run inside any provider. And we know that we have built-in Azure security features. It allows us to have safeguard sensitive data processed by AI, which means that we are able to ensure that privacy, compliance standards are met. We have also the inclusion of role-based access and secure API connection, critical for AI processing in regulated industries. And Azure Kubernetes. So we will use Docker to create our, let's say, to create our containers, but we need an orchestrator that can orchestrate between these containers. And in this case, we talk about Kubernetes, that's known as an orchestrator, open source, and it's supported by all providers, clouds, like Microsoft, Azure, for example, or any other provider. It enables automatic scaling of AI-driven microservices based on demands. So you can load balancing across services to ensure high availability and optimal response time and during peak usage. So you can see here, we can use the new technology, cloud-oriented architects, microservices in our case, the new version of .NET 9 in our case, and the different services AI. Here we will use Azure OpenAI service. We need to create it inside Azure before, and we will consume after these services to create recommendation, in this case for our example. The use case, as I said, is product recommendation in e-commerce application. You can have any, you can integrate that in any application for e-commerce. So in this scenario, when we create We have already, for example, .NET 9 microservices or different microservices that use Azure Open. We created, we will make a call for Azure Open AI service to generate personalized recommendation for this platform, e-commerce platform, for example. So we add some classes here. In our case, we will add the controller specific for recommendation controller, where we will try to see how we can see the recommendation. We need a service, different model you can use, the views, for example. So it's really simple according to the duration of the session. So we try just to explain how we can integrate AI services inside e-commerce application. So we need specific, so it's MVC. So we have here the request, some models needed, service, specific service. We make some changes inside app settings to add Azure Open AI. And next here, we have some NuGet packages and dependency. In this case, we need the most important thing here is .NET add package Azure .ai .openai. Make sure that you get the latest version, so you don't need to add the version. In this case, it's the version 2 for a .NET 9. And maybe sometimes we need, in our example, we need some additional dependency like Newtonsoft.json because we have a JSON part. So let's move to application before talking about deployment and management in Docker. I will let display in Visual Studio Code. We can use it also. We share the link, as I said before, GitHub link that includes the entire application. I'm trying here just to optimize the application to see how we can use it. We have here our controller, recommendation controller, that will use our service, the service here. And here, the service, we will use Azure Open AI clients. So we need the endpoints of our, so you need before to create your service Open AI inside Azure platform. And after you get the different credential needed to get the service here. And we have the endpoints. As I said before, we will add all links inside app settings.json. Here it's a simple example, let's say, but I recommend highly to add all endpoints inside Azure Key Vault, for example, and you call after your Key Vault. Here it's a simple one, so we need to secure our endpoints. Here, your endpoint, you add this block. Azure Open EI, you need to get your API keys. You find it inside your credential when you create your service. We have here your credential. So you get to the key and your endpoint. It generates an endpoint for you. So you need to get the endpoint. So this is your endpoint. And in the service here, let's go back here. So we'll create an instance of Azure Open AI clients. This is the latest version, let's say, for .NET 9. And after, you can start with recommendation, get recommendation asynchronous. So you get here, you can consume, for example, my GPT 4.0 mini deployments, get chat clients. So you can make different here, or you can create different methods here that allows you to get, for example, chat recommendation. You can create your chatbot here. We have a lot of function inside this package that's called Azure Open AI Client. I will share with you the framework, let's say all the DLL, NuGet DLL that include different elements. Here we have get chat client, for example. Here in this case, I tested this one. You can have a different methods here. You can generate prompt here. So here you can parse your answer, the recommendation. You display it in a view, for example. You can send that as for your client, this recommendation. Like you already get this product, maybe this product can interest you. So it depends from your needs. So you have a lot of methods that you are able to use. And don't forget, you are able also to add your training model and to get more and more, let's say, specific methods specifically here. So this is about how you can integrate really AI you need to create an instance of Azure Open AI. You add this package here, Azure the client, we call it the client, Azure Open AI client, and you can call after from the client. You have a lot of methods that allows you to consume the services that are already in Azure Open AI. You can add more services if you already have more training model to add. So it's really flexible if you already know Azure OpenAI service inside Azure. So here we have the model, the controller. This controller here, I would display it, just get recommendations, simple one, but you can improve that to display it in view, to send it by email only, for example. So it depends from your needs for your e-commerce application. Now let's go back to how we deploy and manage inside Docker. As we said, we need something that allow us to generate our application, our different microservices, and we are able to deploy it in any other environments. So containerization, let's say AI-powered microservices with Docker involves packaging the microservices and all its dependencies into a single container, ensuring consistent environments across all stages of development, testing, and production. So the process typically includes creating a Docker file. So we need to create a Docker file, setting up the necessary configuration, and build the Docker image. For AI-powered services like those, in our case, we use Azure Open AI. We need to ensure that required libraries and environment variables, such as API keys in this case, are included in your container. So Docker ensures that these services are easier to scale, manage, and deploy across cloud platform like Azure or any other provider. So here in our application, in your commerce application project that we already created with the recommendation, if you remember, and the controller. So here we will make one package for our application that we run inside the same container. And let's say, and Docker, it's a really perfect tool for this because it allows you to package the entire microservices, including the application code, libraries, environment variables, and configuration files into single portable container image. This ensures that the microservice can run the same way across any environment. It can be development, production, whatever. To create your Docker file, it's really simple. You need to add here just in your extension Docker extension. So you can use the extension here, the extension, and you can use Control-Shift-P. And here you can just add the Docker file to workspace. It will generate for you a Docker file. It's really optimized one. Else you can use command lines. You feel free. So it's free for you. It's up to you. If you'd like to use really command lines of Docker, there is really intelligent command lines like Docker init. Docker init detects the .NET framework, your application, what you need, and it will generate also your Docker files with compose files because we are in mode of microservices. So we need a unique file that will run all different Docker files in our case. And to do that, so after you can you can build your image because we start with an image to build it, and to create container, we run image to create our container. And Dockerfile includes the basic image. In our case, we need the SDK of .NET 9, for example. We need the ASP.NET 9 also to integrate it. Let's generate one just to let you see how it works. So here, yes, .NET. So it's really simple. Do you want, for example, to generate it in Linux or Windows? You need to have a ready Docker desktop installed in your machine. And even it's installed, you can select your operating system. I'm using Windows 11, so I'm using Windows operating system, but I'm able really to run Linux images inside Windows because you have two options. You need just to activate Hyper-V or use WSL2. the best one to use a WSL tool. It's really more optimized for Windows machine. So you can select your operating system, and your Docker file will be generated in this case. And as I said before, you will have one Docker file by microservices, and the orchestrator like Kubernetes or Azure Kubernetes service will allow us to orchestrate between the different microservices, or let's say containers in our case. And now let's move to the summary and the takeaways here. So here we talked about .NET 9 enhancement for microservices. So .NET 9 offers improved performance, scalability, modularity, making it an ideal framework for building microservices that are efficient, really maintainable, and easy to scale. We have also the AI integration for smarter application. We need to have smart application. We need to use Azure Open AI into our microservices, enhances functionality by enabling intelligent decision making, personalized recommendation, and predictable analytics. We use containers using Docker because we need to simplify the deployment of our microservices by packaging them and their dependencies into consistent portable container that can be easier scaled and deployed in cloud environments. And we talk about cloud native microservices because with .NET 9's cloud native capabilities, microservices can be deployed and managed efficiently on cloud platform, ensure like Azure or any other cloud platform, and ensuring high availability, scalability, and resilience. And we have a scalable and secure AI integration, so securely integrate AI capabilities into microservices by integrating API keys, for example, and configuration within containers, ensuring smooth operation and enhanced security. And fast development and deployment cycles because we have the combination between .NET 9's microservices architecture and containerization, let's say, that accelerates the development cycles, simplify testing, and makes deployment more efficient, ensuring quick time to market for new features. This is the goal of any companies. And thank you. This is the link to download the really .NET 9. And thank you.